I see that there's a very interesting question from Lord Lena. So my question is, do you agree for a math teacher to teach history, geography, and social science? Why or why not? Is there anyone in the group who has any sort of opinion on this or would like to answer this question? Or if you have another question, please let us know and you're free to ask it. John, I see you there.
Yeah, I think I was going to ask something or make a comment, but I can tie it to Lord Lena's question. I honestly think that the question that Sumi raised, is where do we begin? Do you change the system? Do you change, where do we start? Has to be answered in a group like this, that who in this group truly believes that every child can do maths? Because that's where this thing falters. I'm working a lot with teachers who don't believe that. And they're maths teachers, so they don't actually believe that all children can do maths. And then I have to look hard and say, well, do I really believe that too? And so when you get a question like, should maths teachers be teaching other subjects? I think the issue is really, are maths teachers any different from any other teachers? We're unlocking children's minds. And we should be integrating our maths learning with the other subjects, so that there's a real metacognition developing, where purpose is made clear. But for us to do that, we've got to develop our internal practice of growth mindset. And I think that's where support groups like this one, really need to help us, because we are conditioned. And even though we think we're liberating from that, we're liberating conceptually, but our patterns and our language are rooted in a fixed mindset space. Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What I want to say, I completely agree with John in that, that was a big issue in schools, especially when you have your schools from your more rural areas, and where the teachers aren't, I don't want to use the word quality, but there's certain schools that have better teachers than others, and where teachers engage with students and they encourage students, and they have this mind that they want students to learn. And I've actually come across this, where you have teachers who are just when I was taught English, my teacher was like, you know what, you science and math students, you guys are good at the numbers, but you're not good at English. And I found that constantly, that affected my learning in terms of English. And I just had a negative mindset to it to begin with. And we have a lot of these teachers. And I went to one of the top schools in my province, and we find teachers like this. So in poorer schools, they have a lot more of those teachers. And I think that's also why I agree with the statement that we need to change this education system that we have, because it doesn't put teachers or students in a space where it's okay to fail. And so if we look at our current education system, it's a case of, I need to get these marks to go to grade 2. I need to get these marks to go to grade 3, to go to grade 4. And there's this structure where you have to do this and get this mark in order to be intelligent. And my little sister said this once, that when she was writing a test, she was like, I failed this math test, and then I'm never going to become an astrophysicist. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, no, my test measures my intellectual abilities. And that's such a skewed idea to have, but it's something that her schooling environment has created. And
So it's not just the school, though. These perceptions are based on every level in society. They're in households. They are views that we internalize. They are at community level when you speak to your friends or your family.
Yep.
To anything in passing. These sort of stereotypes, they all over. I see there's a question from Anita Campbell, so let's get to her. And then there's a lovely comment from Helen Robertson, who says, "Hi, Lord. I wanted to be an art teacher and math was my backup. I honestly feel that I'm a better math teacher because of my other training." That's a very interesting comment. Anita, I see you ready for us.
Yes, so I really resonate with what John Gilmore was saying, that it really actually needs to start with us. I've just finished my PhD on mindset because the idea, it really resonated with me, the Carol Dweck's mindset idea of people sort of being one type or another. It was an idea that really worked for me at school, to be a maths person. I found it easier than some of my friends, and I really bought into this idea that, you know, that's okay. I'm that kind of person, until I came to university. I failed my first maths exam, and I'd actually changed my degree to actually take maths from my second year, and so it just wasn't an option for me not to do it. So I dug down deeper and just did the work, and then, oh, see, you actually can do the maths. But so that experience, it sort of gave me a sense that I can do the maths, but it requires work. It's not just, you know, I can't ride on my past, but it's really buying into the whole growth mindset idea. It's not like a switch.
No.
You know, I thoroughly agree with ideas, and yet I still find myself behaving in a way that is very fixed mindsets sometimes. I have to catch myself. So it's like, that's why the psychology of it is really interesting. And I like what you said, Rizwana, about, you know, sort of a slow change and changing the way you talk. Well, that was someone else, Sally, maybe. Because it's about, you know, you're having to do a lot of undoing, and especially in maths and physics. I noticed in a talk Joe had given that there's some fields, maths and physics particularly, or in fact the fields where diversity is very low, tends to be fields where lecturers there's quite a lot of fixed mindset lecturers, and so it's a culture. And it's going to be slow to change that. That's really my point. But it starts with us. And it starts with us being able to talk to our friends about our own shortcomings.
Yeah.
It really does start with us. At the beginning, you mentioned a bit how you sort of accepted something, right? So when we accept the stereotypes are there to make life easier for ourselves. You know, to sort of what we go for a certain stereotype because it's our way of making sense of the world. So if early on I say, okay, I'm not a math person, I know that's something that I can just, you know, write off completely for me. I don't need to worry about that thing that causes me discomfort. You know, at the same way that someone who's good in maths will identify with that and say, I am a math person, and will be excited and engage quite a bit around that. Do we have any questions? Is there anyone else who'd like to ask a question? So there's a couple comments from Lord Lena, and she says, love hearing your feedbacks regarding my question. It is self-experience, the reason why I rest for a long time in teaching and changed my career, but still I help my former students until they graduated in their undergraduate courses. I love teaching though, whatever field it is. That's such a lovely comment. Helen, you are a multitasking teacher. Daniel, did you have another question?
Yeah, I did, but so I'll just ask you another one. If the idea that some people are more, I don't know, intrinsically or genetically predisposed to being good at maths is being challenged here, and that it's more the nurture side, that we're all sort of born a blank slate, and it's just circumstance and our level and quality of education that we receive. Why is it in society that there's such a stigma that that's not true, and why has that? Why do people think that that idea has stuck around? Is essentially what I'm asking.
Could I have a go at that?
Yes, please, John.
I think it's because we've succumbed to a colonial model of rugged individualism. And I think that we have created competition at the expense of collaboration. We've abandoned the values of humanity, and maths is the front end of that success story. So if you, and as a consequence, maths teachers sometimes behave as the mafia, because they are elevated by within, so you'll have a maths teacher saying, well, I'm a maths teacher, I don't do that. I don't do social development. So I do think we have to unlearn the assumptions that rugged individualism is a necessary way of motivating children, because those assumptions lead us to assume that some are gifted and some aren't, and then we work with the successes, and we humor the failures. And our system, as a consequence, leads to 58% of children dropping out before the end of grade 12. And if we're dropping out 58%, come on, there's something wrong in the basic assumption. And most of those 58% are economically marginalized. So the assumptions around capacity are not correlating. It's actually the assumptions around economy. And we've got to break that. Otherwise, our country's in trouble.
Thank you, John. That's a great comment.